Hi, this is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next I'm going to talk about some high sales that we saw within just the last couple days. One of them is for a book that actually got an unboxing for, so I'm going to open this box as part of this video too. Stay tuned. Alright, so before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. So, what I've been thinking with this kind of like series of videos I'm thinking of doing was that people really seem to be interested in what's going on with the comic market and comic pricing right now. And one of the things that I really enjoy doing is watching the prices and sales and everything with comics. And one of the sales I really like to watch is the Heritage Auction. And there's a Heritage Auction comic sale that goes on every Sunday night, lasts about 4 or 5 hours. And I just like watching those sales. You get to see cool books, you get to kind of see where things are pricing at that week. And I will often just make note of sales that seem higher than what I was expecting, you know, something that seems significant, a big jump, and thought that might be something that others might be interested in, and I could talk about here. So also as part of that, I mentioned one of those sales that happened recently was for a book that I have an unboxing for. It's not the same book, obviously, because this auction was 2 days ago, but it's the same grade, and so I thought I'd open that as part of this. So, let's get started. The first book that was really of note to me was Amazing Spider-Man number 50, where we saw CGC 7.0 sell for $2,640. The prior high sale for that grade was $1,800 on March 1st, so that's a huge jump, $840, almost 50%. And on eBay right now, you can buy a Stan Lee signed copy at a 7.0 for $2,999. So that might be, if you got that kind of money and you're looking for a book like that, that might be a good option, because $300 for a Stan Lee signature is not bad. Now, I'm also going to recommend some other options in certain cases, and with this one, I would really go for Amazing Spider-Man number 51. This is the first cover appearance of Kingpin. Because Amazing Spider-Man 50 is the first appearance of Kingpin. 51 is first cover appearance of Kingpin. It's also his second appearance, obviously. And so that's a great option, and it is way, way cheaper. A 6.5 sold for $284 on March 20th, and a 9.0, a CBCS 9.0, sold for $535 on March 17th. So significantly less, and you can get some really high-grade copies. So something to consider if the 50 is a little out of reach. The next book is Amazing Spider-Man number 119. Now, this was one of the craziest sales that I saw the entire night. When it was happening, I was just like, what is going on? I texted my older brother immediately. I was like, look at this sale. This thing is crazy, because it was for a 9.0 that sold for $1,680. Now, this is the book that I was talking about as one of the alternatives to Fantastic Four number 12, because it's a fight kind of between Spider-Man and Hulk. And the high sale for that book for a 9.8 was $1,500. This was $1,680 for a 9.0. And there were multiple copies on eBay of 9.2s, 9.4s, and I think 9.6s. That were all way less than that, $300, $400 range. And after that sale, they sold immediately. One of them to me. So I saw that and I was like, I don't know really what's going to happen with this, so I'm going to pick up one of those books, and so I grabbed one of those. Traditionally, a 9.0 had been selling for about $200 to $225, and 9.2s, 9.4s in the $300 to $400 range. So I mean, it was a crazy sale. I don't know what was going on with it, but sometimes I've noticed that there will be heritage sales that seem really out of line with things that are available on eBay. I don't know. It could be something where Heritage supports international sellers, and a lot of the listings on eBay aren't available, and so maybe it was an international buyer that didn't have access to those sales. I don't know. I've also seen that just because you have a huge sale on Heritage does not necessarily translate into continued big sales outside of Heritage. It does sometimes, though. So that's why I felt like it was worthwhile to just pick up that book to be safe in this, because the sales that I saw that triggered the big kickoff in prices for Star Wars number 1 were Heritage. Star Wars #1 was selling at $900, $800, $1,000 for a long time in a 9.8. Then all of a sudden, there was a $2,000 sale, approximately, in a 9.8 with Star Wars #1, and it was just like off to the races after that. I mean, that book has gone through the roof. There was, I think, a sale I saw yesterday of $7,400 for a 9.8. I mean, that book it's gone. I mean, I couldn't even imagine picking up a 9.8 anymore. It is so expensive now. But if you do come across a higher grade Amazing Spider-Man 119 that's in a decent price still, like a $300 to $400 for 9.2, 9.4, I would pick it up, because that sale could be triggering some bigger moves in that book as time goes on. Because I can guarantee you people are going to start pricing them higher because of that sale on eBay. So something to be aware of. You could also check out those other books that I mentioned before: Submariner #8. Fantastic Four #25, or Fantastic Four 112, as books to pick up as kind of these Hulk or Thing type, fighting cover books. The next book, it was the books that I saw that were doing this were a little heavy on Amazing Spider-Man at the start. So the next one was Amazing Spider-Man #194, and this is the first appearance of Black Cat. And Black Cat is an extremely popular character. I feel like this book has been underpriced for a while because it's a black cover. It's difficult to get in high grade. And we saw a CGC 9.4 direct edition sell for $780. And put a picture of the direct edition up here, and the difference at this point, because this is, I believe, 1979, so the direct editions still have the barcode, but they have a slash through them. And so there's a short period of time where the difference between directs and newsstands is that they both have the barcode, but the directs have the slash through them. After that, they transition to the directs having Spider-Man's face or some character's face or something like that. Now, the last sale on February 14th for a 9.4 of this book was $430, and the high had been $460 in October of last year. But I was expecting a little bit of a move in this book because we saw a 9.2 sell for $450 on March 5th. So it wasn't out of line to expect an increase, but $780 was a pretty big move. I mean, that's $350 almost. I mean, it's almost 100% up from 430. That's something like about 80%. So that's a massive jump in 1 month. For comparison, I sold a 9.6 newsstand in November for $725, and they're now going above $1,000. So that book has really started to move up. And I don't think there are really any alternatives needed for that book. It's still very affordable in grades outside of those really high, 9.4, 9.6, 9.8. You can get a 6.65 for around $150. So that's that. I would still get that book. Just maybe you've got to aim for a little bit lower grade. All right, so now for the next book, we're finally getting out of Amazing Spider-Man, and I'm going to talk about Avengers Annual #10. And so this is the first appearance of Rogue. And for this one, to save myself some editing, I don't need to go and get, or I don't need to pop in a picture because I have a copy of this book. And so this is a CGC 9.8, and that is exactly what sold on Heritage. It was a 9.8 direct, and so this is the direct. You can see it's got Spider-Man's face down there instead of barcode, and this sold for $1,680, and the prior high sale was $1,600 back on March 9th. However, just yesterday on Monday, we saw a $2,100 sale for this book on eBay. So that book has now jumped pretty substantially. I mean, that's a $500 jump since March 9th. So that's almost 30%, give or take. But again, this is another book that you don't need to go and try to find some alternative, a second appearance or anything like that. It's extremely affordable outside of those very high grades, 9.4, 9.6, 9.8. A 9.4 even is going for around $250, and at an 8.0 or lower, you can typically get it for under $100. So it's a very affordable book, a big key, because you got to think that Rogue is eventually coming to the MCU, and I think it's a great book to pick up. Now, the next book is one that was really shocking to me when I was watching the sale. Outside of that Amazing Spider-Man #119, this was probably the biggest surprise that I saw in that sale. And this is Chilling Tales #15. I'm going to put a picture up here. Now, The tough part with this book was just guessing what the price of the book it was going to go for. Now, I had estimated something like $1,200 to $1,500. And the reason for that was that there's only one prior sale of this book that I found on Go Collect for a universal copy. And it was a 1.5 that sold for $305 back in 2019. And so I just did a rough estimate where you say each point is worth $200. And because, 1.5 into 300 gives you $200 per point. And so I said 6.5 gets me around $1,300. Pre-code horror books have gotten more popular, so maybe a little bit higher, 15, something like that. But this book just kept going. The bids kept coming, and it sold for $9,000. I mean, crazy. So if you come across this book, you see it for a good price, pick it up, because that record is now going to be in Go Collect. It is going to be in GPA, all these other places, and that is going to be the point that people are going to be using now to price that book. So that was a crazy sale. I just could not believe that thing just kept going up higher and higher. So there had to be at least 2 people on Heritage that really, really wanted that book because they were willing to bid that book up. So the next sale I wanted to talk about is one that's, I think, very pertinent for this year, and that's Eternals #1. And I also have a copy of that book. So this is Eternals #1, which is the first appearance of the Eternals, and we saw a CGC 9.6 sell for $840, and this is a big move. It was, the prior high sale was $685 on March 16th, with a $640 sale on March 20th. So $200 increase in one day, from a $640 basis, almost 30%. So that's a big move for that 9.6. And the thing that's been driving that is that the 9.8s have really been jumping in price, and they're starting to pull up those other grades with them. A 9.8, we saw a sale of $2,900 on March 18th. So just last week, right before the sale happened. And so those really high 9.8 sales are now starting to pull up those, 9.6, 9.4, 9.2 other grades. But again, this is a book you don't need to go outside of Eternals #1. You just have to maybe shift down from those really high grades. You can get a 9.0 for around $250 and 6.5s for around $125. So there are very affordable copies of this book available, and I mean, pick them up before the trailer comes out, because his channel now goes by Bry's Comics, but previously was Comically Correct Comics. He did that video on when you should sell a book if you're looking to sell a book, and it was when the trailer drops, and we haven't even had a trailer yet, so there's no guessing where this book could go once we get a trailer and we see these characters on the big screen, everything like that. So just something to watch for. Alright, now the next book is the one that I'm going to do this unboxing for, so I'll get into this and then we'll talk about this book. Alright, so if you have watched almost any of my prior videos, I talk about this book all the time, and I have been telling people, pick up this book, get copies of this book. I am now up to, I think, 9. And so this is Special Marvel Edition number 15. And it's the first appearance of Shang-Chi. It is the character that is going to be the main character in a major Marvel movie that's coming out later this year, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And so this book, with a Marvel movie coming out with a major character, first appearance that's tough and a high grade because of the black cover, I mean, you should be picking this book up. It is extremely undervalued, and I cannot recommend enough that you should be picking this book up. Now it is starting to move now, and that's what I'm going to be talking about, because this weekend we saw a Special Marvel Edition number 15 CGC 9.4 sell for $2,160, and for kind of comparison, I picked this book up on March 4th for $1,400. So that is a 50%, a little more than 50% increase in price in about 2 weeks. So that just kind of shows you, again, what's going on in the market in general, but with this book specifically. Now, low grades can still be had for maybe 3.0 or lower for $200. So they are obtainable, but they are starting to move up across the board. And so I would try to pick them up now if you can, because I just see this book getting more and more expensive as the year goes on. Now, the one thing that I wanted to mention again with this on why I think this book is so undervalued, other than just the fact that you have this movie coming out later this year, and it seems like this book was just chronically underpriced, given that fact, is something I mentioned before that was kind of like a little analysis that Omega Red did. So it's Red spelled Reed, so it's Omega _ Red, and I'll put a link to his Instagram again in the description. But he did a comparison with Tomb of Dracula number 10, so the first appearance of Blade, which also has a movie coming out, but not for a while. That's not coming out this year. And that book sells for approximately double what this book does. So a 9.4 Tomb of Dracula sold on March 4th for $4,050. So almost double exactly to what this book sells for. And prior to this, the high was between $2,200 and $2,700. So it's moving up at the same rate, and I feel like this book should catch it, because it's got the movie that's coming out, it's got the news that's going to drive those prices, and so you could still see some pretty significant moves in this book if it follows those same trends as Tomb of Dracula number 10. Now, the reason for that the comparison is very good in my opinion is that not just because they're both Marvel movies and everything, but they're books that came out around the same time, and they have very similar census numbers. They're both Bronze Age books and very similar census counts for CGC. So they are, they have a lot of direct comparisons that you can make with the grades that are available and that kind of thing. Now, the last book I'm going to talk about, I just felt I had to throw it in here because it was just such a massive sale. Now, I had other ones that I saw that I thought were interesting, but it's just, I can only talk about so many, or the video would be really, really long. So that was X-Men number 1. And the reason I also kind of want to mention this one is that I was talking about how expensive X-Men number 1 and Giant Size X-Men number 1 were getting a couple weeks ago when I recommended picking up X-Men 94, and now that one has gotten out of hand too. But a CGC 3.5 sold for $19,200. The prior high, which was also extremely high, was $14,300 on March 20th. So March 20th, $14,300. 1 day later, $19,200. So $5,000 in a single day. And that is exactly what I was talking about in my market video that I released on Sunday, was that this is the kind of thing that's freezing people a bit with selling books. Is imagine being that person that sold their X-Men number 1 3.5 for $14,000, and the next day seeing the exact same book sell for $5,000 more. You're going to be kicking yourself. I mean, there's no other way. You are going to feel bad about it, and it's just, it's rough. I mean, these prices, you keep thinking, oh, it can't get any higher. It can't get any higher, and it does. Now, I don't really have any advice for what to do as an alternative anymore for X-Men number 1. My advice was X-Men 94, a couple weeks ago, but because that book is now, I've seen 7.0s asking 2,000. I haven't seen them actually achieve that yet, but they're starting to get some really high asking prices. So prices are getting up there for that book as well. But I mean, the thing that I think will be interesting with some of those really big books like X-Men number 1 is that what we've been seeing sell recently have been low-grade copies. 2.5s, 3.5s, 4.0s, this kind of stuff. We haven't seen any of the big, high-grade keys sell in this new kind of market. And so I'm thinking about like a 7.0, an 8.0, a 9.0, one of these really high-grade copies of those books. And I'm wondering, are we going to see equivalent increases in cost, or have these prices moved up so fast for these lower grade keys that just people can't pay the equivalent that you would expect for a higher grade? So are we going to see a 7.0 or an 8.0 sell for 100,000 or 150,000, or are they going to be around 40? Are you going to have a ton of price compression on these books? And that's what I'm really interested in seeing. I'm curious to see how that plays out, because I think people seem to be holding on to those higher grade ones, and we'll see what happens when some of those finally hit the market. But these were the books I wanted to talk about. I thought these were really kind of like interesting sales that I saw, ones that really jumped out at me. And if you thought this was useful, let me know in the comments. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I always like watching these sales, and I like kind of making notes on them, so it's fun for me to talk about. And I think it's just something that's useful to keep people aware of kind of how the market's moving. And if I start to see that prices are dropping, that's something else. I'll report on that too. But right now, that is not what I'm seeing. I am seeing crazy record highs in all kinds of books across all ages, and it's been pretty incredible to watch. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.